Hi, guys. It's me and Gail. I sound a little bit different. Probably I'm stuck in a shark's mouth, That'll mess with your speech a little bit. So, Gail is going to help me tonight. We're 10 minutes delayed because I made a mistake. Um, it deleted itself for some reason. Sometimes it'll do that. But nonetheless, we're back. Dallas Tales by Gayle Jones, Summer Adventures at Camp Meatloaf. And so we've learned so much about Dallas since we've been reading. And I'm at the point now where I'm trying to figure out, I don't know if this is going to end well for Dallas. Oh, Dallas is still here. But the character that she's playing herself. So I know it ends well for her. But I'm just curious because now we're on, let's see, lessons learned, which
Yep.
I thought the Coyotes would have done it. I thought that the bus ride would have done it. I thought that what was it? The Bats would have done it. But it says lessons learned, so it makes me think more trouble ahead. Am I making a good prediction there, Gail?
What would you say?
Am I making a good prediction?
Somewhat.
Somewhat. Just never know with her.
I can't, they have a lot of oh, hi there, Genesis.
Genesis. Genesis. She has a twin brother, Jonah, and she has a younger brother. I don't know if he'll
Oh,
jump on or not, Justin. But it's the three J's. So I
okay.
guess because I sound like this is so nice of you to offer, would you mind reading chapter 10?
Sure.
Starting chapter 10. And
All
I
right.
haven't heard you read your book, so this will be exciting.
I know. I'm going to show them the page. Lessons. Whoops. I got to figure this out. Lessons learned. You see that paw? Every time we start a chapter, there's a big dog paw. Okay, here we go. Hank, the Catahoula hound dog, mostly lives with his family in Mississippi, but he was born right here in Texas. He's a good old Texas boy. Hank won everyone's heart with his goofy smile and winsome personality. Hank is young and still growing, so when he runs, it looks as if he will trip over himself because his legs are too long for his body just yet. I tell you that Hank has the yellowest eyes you've ever seen, sort of like people eyes. I told Felix early on to be in charge of Hank because this was his first time at Camp Meatloaf, and like I say, Catahoulas can be a little mischievous. Felix, where's Hank? I asked the next day when I noticed Hank was nowhere to be seen. Felix looked around, but Hank seemed to have vanished. Where could that pup have gone so quickly? Something made me look over my shoulder down towards the lake. Oh no, oh no, that can't be Hank. Up on top of old Red, can it? Old Red's a big slide. I know Catahoulas can climb, but geez, he's all the way to the top. Gulp. As camp chairman, I knew I couldn't have an injury on the first day, on the first afternoon of my second shift. But it was too late to stop him. Plus, the entire camp of dog pups had seen Hank climbing up the ladder and had made their way to the lake shore to watch. To make matters worse, they were all looking up at Hank on Old Red and chanting, "Slide, slide, slide." I couldn't look. I suppose Hank didn't learn at dog obedience school that you don't do everything your friends tell you to do. Instead, he bent to peer pressure and seemed intent on pleasing the crowd below. Well, he was stuck now with no other option besides sliding down head first into Ink's Lake. It was just seconds before Hank hit the water full force, and when he came up for air, he began to thrash about. All the pups were laughing at Hank because he obviously got a big mouthful of water, but I wasn't laughing. I realized immediately that Hank was near drowning. Before anyone else made a move, I jumped into the water and dog paddled quickly to Hank's side. The Camp Meatloaf lifeguard jumped in the water about the same time, and together we dragged Hank safely onto the bank. The lifeguard held Hank's wet body close to him and squeezed his middle to get some of the water out of his lungs. After sputtering a bit, Hank wriggled out of the lifeguard's arms and ran over to the cousins, his tail tucked between his legs. Talk about being embarrassed. But Hank's lucky he survived. That's what I told him too when I got the chance. You're okay, Hank, I assured him, but I hope you've learned your lesson. Never let others influence you to do something you know you ought not to do. Time would tell if he learned anything at all. After the scare of Hank's near drowning, we tried to take a nap under the big house to rest. But mercy sakes alive, what was all that noise? Whistles were blowing, kids were hollering, and then came what sounded like a herd of buffaloes up above us in the big house as the campers all assembled inside there for craft time. Maybe staying under the big house wasn't such a good idea after all, so we decided to clear out and head to Muskrat Lodge for a late breakfast of leftover scraps from the campers. One thing is for sure, these kids don't eat much. Most of them don't like eggs, and that's a good thing for a pup. Yum. I love me some eggs, but it was eggs that got me into the worst trouble of my life when I spent a few days with my other cousin, Radar, a fox terrier like Foxy. Radar lived on a farm, and one of his favorite pastimes was raiding the hen house and stealing the eggs out of their nest. I knew it wasn't right, but raw eggs are just like caviar to a dog. While I watched, he showed me how to sneak into that chicken yard and outrun the old rooster who stood guard over all the eggs. Those roosters have big claws on the back of their legs called spurs. Just be careful, Dallas, Radar warned. If that rooster spurs you on the neck, you'll bleed to death on the spot. He could see I was afraid, but then he teased that I would be a big chicken if I didn't go with him. I knew I shouldn't go, but I ended up going anyway. Late that night, Radar and I sneaked into the chicken yard when the hens were up on their roost asleep. We were busy feasting on several eggs when all at once here came that old rooster flapping his wings at us. He was mostly running, but every now and again those big wings lifted his body off the ground like an airborne missile headed straight for us. In the next moment, I felt something brush the back of my neck, and I was sure the old rooster had just spurred me to certain death. Instead, it turned out to be Radar, who had jumped completely over my back and accidentally ran his toenails across my neck in his attempt to escape the hen house. I followed quickly behind Radar and got out of that chicken yard fast. I lost my taste for eggs for a good while after that near-death experience. Like Hank, that was my own lesson in not giving in to peer pressure. Never again. But Hank wasn't finished learning some big lessons that summer.
Well, just as I thought, well, it's not Dallas. This is
No.
friends. He's having a Dallas. She's having a really hard time making her friends mine.
Mm-hmm.
A
She's
really
really
hard time.
trying. She's trying.
She's trying. It's kind of like my sisters with me. They can only
Yep,
try.
that's right. That's right. She's kind of one of the oldest of the pups, and it's Bear and Dallas and Felix are the oldest of the nine. So she tries to kind of help them see what they need to not do because she's already
Oh,
done it. See, experience teaches, right?
she has. I had to go to college, but not her. So I want to say hello to Pop Pop. He said hello to you and Gail, or you and I, and you and I. Yes, you and I. I'm so
Hello.
Stacey.
So
And
glad
hi,
y'all
Ava, Ari, and Pop Pop. And there's a special message for you. Oh, well,
Oh,
this is Hank and Willow
that's
listening.
okay. That's my granddaughter. And guess what? Hank and Willow are listening. Hank is the dog we just talked about, and
Oh,
he's
my goodness.
listening tonight. That's my granddaughter Avery. She owns the Catahoulas.
Hi,
Hi,
Avery.
Avery. All right,
Well,
you
I'll
just
read
read it.
this.
You just need time. Okay, you
I'll,
want me to
I'll
go?
attempt to read chapter 11
Okay.
in my nasally voice.
Uh,
So, Hank's rescue. The trumpet sound of revel or reveal,
Reveille.
reveille. I should know that. Reveille sounds for the campers next door every morning to get them out of bed and on to their adventures for the day. That is the time for a little pack to get started for the day as well. As camp chairman, today I suggested we hike a trail that winds along Inks Lake where I've seen lots of rabbits to chase. The camp meatloaf staff packed us a picnic lunch full of pizza bones and apple slices. They even rigged up a pup wagon with the harness that our big guy Felix agreed to pull. Muskrat Lounge served pizza again to the kids last night, so there were lots of pizza bowls left over. To complete our lunch, Bear found a whole box of corn dogs stashed by the trash. I offered to lead the pack and have Felix at the rear so no one would get lost. We hiked the trail for a while, then made our way up to Snaggletooth Rock overlooking the lake, a splendid spot for our picnic. We all thanked Felix for hauling our lunch up to the hill and worked together to spread our feast on the big rock. Bear dug out an old pair of binoculars from the wagon that one of the camp staff must have tucked in there for sightseeing. Some of the pups took turns holding the binoculars between their paws and taking long looks at the lake to see what they could see. Geez, all that hiking has really made me hungry. Foxy chimed in as he waited for lunch to be served. And I can't wait for those corn dogs, Poodle Puff added. Much to our surprise, I guess the 514 is getting used to eating leftovers instead of their gourmet fare and ritzy bitsy. The corn dogs really are good, I must say. They are some of my favorites so far. We dug into our food and settled around licking our lips afterward for a good long time. The 514 decided to return to camp, along with Lacey the cat, leaving me and the cousins at the rock. Foxy was having a ball so far at Camp Meatloaf, but her companions were still unhappy with the primitive surroundings compared to their five-star Camp Ritzy Bitsy. They mostly stayed to themselves and didn't interact much with us. That is until one of our gang developed a crush on one of them, but that's a story for later. I was just about to fall asleep watching the kids sailing out on the lake and having so much fun on this gorgeous day, but something caught my eye. What was that tiny speck on the deck of a small sailboat in the distance? I didn't see any kids on board. Hand me the binoculars, Bear, I called out to him. Maybe a sailboat had broken away from its mooring last night and floated out into the middle of the lake. Oh my goodness, I cried as I focused the binoculars. There's no way I'm seeing what I've seen. Where's Hank? Suddenly, all the pups were on high alert, looking around for Hank. I know he left with us, didn't he? His sister Willow asked. Here, come here, Hank. Luke barked as loud as he could. Come on now, don't be playing games like this. I don't want to believe that Hank was the figure I'd spotted on the sailboat below, I told her. She did so, and I wiped off the lenses to take a. Oh, I think I was the figure I spotted on the sailboat below. Coco, please get me something to clean the lenses of these binoculars, I told her. She did so, and I wiped off the lenses to take another look and make sure. Great Scott, I said. Hank's aboard that sailboat all alone. How in the world did that happen? Catahoula hound dogs can be pretty mischievous pups, and once again, Hank was proving to be just that and more. Bear, didn't you make sure Hank left with us? I asked. Bear had a really sheepish look on his face and cowered a bit. I took a deep breath and said a prayer quietly. Come on, guys, I ordered the rest of the pups. Just leave everything here. We've got to get down to the lake and get Hank to shore. Assuming the role of camp chairman was proving to be quite the challenge. If anything happened to Hank, I'd never hear the end of it from his mama. That pup. Growl. When we got to the lake shore, I assigned Bear to take the lead on the rescue since he was the strongest. Coco and I will swim out to Hank with you. Felix and the rest, you stay behind and run over to Old Red and wait for us there. We'll use the slide as a landmark so we can see our way back once we rescue Hank. On the water, everything looks the same from a distance. Spotting Felix by Old Red would help us to get our bearings and make it safely back to shore. We all dove in and started dog paddling out to Hank. By then, Hank was howling because he was scared to death. The closer we got to him, the louder he howled. We finally reached the sailboat and I sent Bear and Coco to the front of the boat to grab the mooring rope in their teeth. Since I was the smallest, I climbed aboard to help comfort Hank. He was shivering with fear, and he almost knocked me back into the water because he was so glad to see me. You're okay, Hank, I assured him. You're not in any trouble. You're not in trouble with us. Don't worry. The truth was that I actually wanted to scold him big time. But I figured that the poor pup had already had the most frightening experience of his young life. So why make it worse? We're all family, and even though we can get frustrated with each other, we love one another deeply. Bear and Coco swam hard, pulling the tiny sailboat with the rope as they towed us back to shore. Felix barked at the top of his lungs to signal where we should dock the sailboat. I can't tell you how happy Hank was to be on land again. No doubt there will be big tales at the campfire tonight. Hank's rescue yesterday was such a great team effort. I could not be more proud of all the cousins. Everyone pitched in to do their part, and neither Coco nor Bear complained even once about pulling Hank all the way to shore. That took a great deal of energy and effort. When we were sitting around the campfire later that night, I asked Hank how in the world this had happened. Well, it all began with butterflies, Hank said. He explained that while he had been hiking on the trail with all of us, he started chasing some butterflies and just drifted further and further from the group. It was like someone turned down the volume and I could no longer hear any of your voices. He knew we planned to hike up the hill to Snaggletooth Rock for our picnic, but he let a distraction like silly butterflies cause him lots of trouble. Being a Catahoula, Hank is really good at jumping and climbing, and he is very sure-footed. Once he found himself at the lakeshore about the sailboats, he thought it would be fun to climb on board and drift a little ways into the water. He figured he could jump in and swim back to shore if the boat sailed too far. Before I realized what was happening, I drifted out into the middle of Ink's Lake, he moaned. Since he's still a young pup, he wasn't so sure he could swim that far back to shore. But at least you made the right decision to stay with the boat, Hank, Willow added. We all nodded in agreement. Hopefully, that will be our last Hank episode, right, Hank? I said. Hank gave us a toothy grin and wagged his tail sheepishly. Little rascal scared us all to death. Okay, cousins, I said to change the subject. Let's make the best of tomorrow. Who wants to try jumping on that big blob in the lake? The blob is something I have wanted to try since I first saw it. Who will be first? I asked the pups as we circled up at the lakeshore the next day. It was the perfect time of day for us to try the blob because the campers were resting in their cabins for the afternoon. We decided that Bear and I would go first. We climbed up the ladder and waited on the platform above the blob to decide our plan of action. Bear said I should jump first onto the blob below and wait for him. This is not going to end well for you, Dallas. But let's see. It may. Let's see, Dallas. Since he's the biggest, he would jump on the blob after me and bounce me up into the air like we'd seen the kids do. So I jumped, landed on the blob, and waited for Bear to join me. Here goes, Bear shouted as he flew off the platform, headed for the blob below. When he landed, I thought for a minute that I was blasting off into space. Mercy sakes alive. I didn't want to go to the moon, Bear. I thought I would never come back down. And when I did, I went so far in the water, I thought I'd never come back up. Woo! It was a close call. Next up was Hank jumping onto the blob, followed by Felix crashing down next to him and sending Hank flying into the air. Coco and Willow took turns with King. Luke passed on the fun because he's probably smarter than the rest of us. I could see why the kids love this thing. Well, speaking of kids, after a while, they showed up at the lake for their afternoon swim, and we hit the road. What do you say we hike up the Snaggletooth again today, since Hank didn't get to see my favorite trail? I suggested to the group when we left Ink's Lake. I will lead, Felix. You cover the back, and for goodness sake, don't let Hank out of your sight. When we reached the top of Snaggletooth Rock, we decided to make a campfire because nothing is more fun than pups sitting around a campfire telling stories, especially scary ones. Suddenly, Hank remembered King's story about the bats from the other night. Are there bats out here? He asked. It's so much fun to tease my cousins, especially Hank. It was dark by then, and all I could see were Hank's wide yellow eyes. Well, Hank, I began. Never seen any bats out here, but you just never know. There could be bats up in the hollow of those really tall trees. We always need to be on guard. With that, Hank jumped up and grabbed a few more sticks to put on the fire to give more light in the darkness. Yep, Bear added, just for fun when he saw how scared Hank was. Old King told me once that if a bat ever lands on your back, it's lights out. Sayonara. Goodbye. Adios. And see you in heaven, buddy, because it's over. Coco and Willow were shaking now, too. That's when Felix changed the subject and said, King, tell us more about Aztec. That coyote doesn't especially like us pups being out here in the woods, does he? King answered, Well, Felix, we're nowhere near where the coyotes live. It would be dangerous to camp too close to them at night. They'd run us out of here if they laid eyes on us. Camp? Said a terrified Hank. You mean as in camp outside? Oh, no, I didn't sign up for a camp out in the woods tonight. I'm ready to go back. Settle down, little pup, I told Hank. We're not going to let anything hurt you. It's fun to sleep out under the stars on a gorgeous night. There's a full moon, and it provides a lot of light naturally. But Hank immediately got up and settled down next to Bear. I'm sleeping right next to you, he announced. Well, I'm getting sleepy, I said. Let's all tuck in for the night. But just when everyone was almost asleep, far up into the hillside, Aztec let out a low howl. Oh my goodness. Aunt Ella, hello. Hi, Mia. Your great granddaughter is listening with me. She's fascinated by your headdress. Oh, well, this is my aunt, and I'm her favorite niece. I'm her favorite person in the entire world. Sorry, Mia. I know you thought it was you, little cousin. But here's my headpiece. Let me tell you, Mia, I have to wear this because your grandma likes sometimes to get really close and I just my shark head. Maybe the dog should have this. Then they wouldn't be so afraid if they had a shark, you know?
Right.
All right, chapter 13. Good morning, campers. There we go.
Oh, wait.
Chapter oh, did I skip a chapter? I did.
Yeah.
Chapter 12. Campfire memories. In a flash, Hank had jumped over Bear and was at my side after we heard the coyote howl. Hank, settle down, I whispered. I could tell by Aztec's howl that was merely his way of saying good night. Not everyone was convinced. I suggested we talk about their favorite memories of Camp Meatloaf so far until we all got sleepy again. We'll start with Felix. What's been your favorite activity so far, I asked. Felix said his favorite event was, of course, the ever popular blob. He had great fun plunging down on that rubber blob with all his might, heaving Hank a mile high into the air. Felix's favorite food at Muskrat Lodge has been rat meatloaf. Me too, cried Bear. I love it. That's the request those two always put in with Camp Meatloaf cooks. No surprise, Felix's favorite memory so far was how he guided us to shore while we rescued Hank on the sailboat. Coco went next after Felix, saying that her favorite thing was to hike up to the big rock for the picnic. Even though it was cut short by Hank's dilemma, she enjoyed the hike and went crazy over the apple slices in our lunch. Yeah, you loved them so much that you begged everyone for their share, Coco, Felix added. What about you, Bear? What do you like about camp so far? Like Felix, Camp said his favorite event was also the blob. He took great joy in launching me into outer space. Bear's favorite food was rat meatloaf and the pizza bones the kids toss out every time they eat pizza. And his favorite memory was pulling Hank to safety on his sailboat. What a champion swimmer you turned out to be, Bear, said King. Not only was Bear strong, but he was also so sweet to Hank once we got back to shore. Sure. I think my favorite memory so far is seeing all your faces the night we first heard Aztec howling. King shared with a laugh. We were all getting sleepy by then. So I made my answers quick. I have to say that I've loved every minute of camp. I've been proud to serve as your camp chairman, although it was pretty scary at times. My favorite food next to rat meatloaf is and would always be leftover hot dogs. But my favorite memory is watching Hank's face anytime we're telling scary stories. A scary story is always part of the initiation of every camper. And I think we've all been scared enough lately. But we would soon come across a situation that summer that would nearly frighten us to death. Oh my goodness. So we have had coyotes, We've had a big slide. We've had the blob. We've had somebody stuck on a sailboat, but something even scarier is going to happen next week, is what you're telling me?
They have many adventures. They're out
Oh,
in the woods. They're out in the woods and they come across all kinds of things that they don't expect to come across. When you go in the woods, you never know what you're going to find.
you don't. You never ever know. I cannot believe we're already on page 52 for next week.
I know. Is this a very
It has been such a fun read. And as nasally and congested as I am, I knew that I wouldn't know what happened unless I did Tucked In Tuesdays because I can't read it. So I was like, I'll just suffer through it with my box of Kleenex. I gotta know what happened. So that's why I was like, I jumped on. I was like, I gotta hear what happened tonight. I can't take off the night
well
because it's so exciting.
since chapter 13 is kind of small, you want me to read it real quick?
Yeah, go ahead,
And then that'll
please.
push us along. Okay. Good
Yes.
morning, campers. The next morning, King went back to camp. I nominated Big Fee, which is Felix's nickname, to be the next camp chairman for the week. Felix would do a great job, I told my cousins. As you know, he is very level headed and confident. He likes to play and joke around, but he also knows when to get the job done. Then it's rat meatloaf again for dinner, announced Big Fee as his first order as chairman. Ugh, no, I thought. I loved it, but we'd just had it the night before. Then Hank started jumping for joy, remembering how good that dish was. Not me. I'm going to snoop around for some pizza bones when those kids get done with dinner this evening. It's every man and dog for himself. Big Fee then began roll call, another duty of the chairman. Luke, here. Dallas, here. Coco, here. Willow, Willow. Willow did not answer. Willow? Felix repeated a third time. Willow was not answering roll call. Oh no, where could that little newbie be hiding? I asked. I think she might have eaten just a little too much rat meatloaf the other night, Bear suggested. That stuff is so rich, and evidently, if you have a taste for it, you just can't quit eating it. About that time, bless you, about that
Nothing.
time, Willa came over to us with her tail tucked between her legs. Sorry, I'm okay, she said in a soft voice. I don't want to miss out on anything today. I'll be fine. Despite looking green around the gills, she was ready to go. Felix finished the roll call before suggesting the day's activities. Okay, guys, the weather is gorgeous, the lake is sparkling, and the kids are still at breakfast. How about we go for a rock climb? Since Catahoula hound dogs are particularly good at climbing, I thought we would let Hank lead our expedition today. Hank jumped with excitement to be the leader for today. Let's swing by the Muskrat Lodge for breakfast, Felix instructed, and we started hiking back to camp and ended up right outside the kitchen where the kids had just finished eating. I volunteered to pack some snacks in my handy backpack, so I got busy loading up leftover donuts, half eaten waffles, some pancakes, and cereal bars. I do hope there's some peanut butter in some of those cereal bars, I thought to myself. Remember, Dallas, some kids are allergic to peanut butter, Luke said, reading my mind. Geez, I've heard my mom say that my Uncle Craig could not have grown up without peanut butter. Mama said peanut butter was about all he would eat when he was a little kid. Spoiled brat is what I was thinking. I would have made him eat broccoli if I had been Uncle Craig's mom. After we loaded up all the food I could carry, Hank led the way to the rocks by the lake. I tell you, that Hankster can run with those long legs. Right behind him was Bear. I thought this was going to be a nice leisurely hike, pausing to look at all the beautiful scenery, but oh no, Hank thinks it's a marathon. Slow down, Hank. Watch out for snakes and coyotes, called Felix. When Willow heard that, she just about froze in her tracks. What, wait a second. I might not feel so good after all, she said. No one said anything about wild animals. Dallas, are there really coyotes out here? Well, not too many. You'll be fine. I assured her, even though I wasn't sure about that at all. I figured that one day we might even meet Aztec on one of these trails, and I wasn't sure how that would go.
Well, she didn't address the snakes. She's still concerned about the coyotes.
She
But
what?
I said he mentioned snakes and coyotes. But she's,
Yes,
I guess the coyotes are the biggest fear.
yes, they're really dangerous.
Really, really dangerous.
Uh
Well,
huh.
let's see. Oh my goodness. So look at this. Now, this is probably my best ever Tucked in Tuesday comment. So John said we went to elementary school together. Upper
Oh,
Little Coyote Elementary School in Chauvin, Louisiana. John, you have made my entire day.
that is
That
so
is the
fun.
Oh my goodness, this is the sweetest. John, you have made my night. I do. I need to get in a steamy sauna. I will. And I'll have me drink me some hot tea to kind of clear me out. Look at that. John, I must have been a really good elementary student if you're still saying hello to me. And look, he says, yeah, I miss you, girl. I miss you too, John. A little heart.
That is the most fun thing ever.
Oh, that's the one that was in elementary school. Back in Chauvin, Louisiana, we all connect.
What grade?
John, were we in class together? And it's a little delayed, but
Sure.
this is so sweet. This has made my whole day. This has made my day. And
That'll make
top
you
of
get.
reading Dallas.
That'll make you get
I,
well. That'll make you
and I'm
get well.
trying to, yes. So we didn't do our takeaways. I will tell you my biggest takeaway. My adventures are not everybody else's. Meaning, what's fun for me is not always fun for them. But sometimes it's fun to watch them when they're on my adventures.
When they're what?
Sometimes it's fun to watch them when they're doing my adventure because
Oh,
they don't know what's going to happen next. But then I don't like going on their adventures because I don't know what's going to happen next. So I can learn a lot from dogs.
you can.
I
There's a
actually
lot.
can.
Yep.
So I want to ask you, I know we've asked this in the beginning, but for those that are just joining, tell them how long it took you to write Dallas Tales.
It was over 7 summers. I was writing to my grandchildren at summer camp each summer when they would go away to camp because they wanted me to write to them. And so I wrote probably anywhere between 2, 4, or 5 stories each summer to my grandchildren. And I didn't think about it being a book as I was writing. I was just writing to my grandchildren. So as a consequence, there I was trying to instill some lessons, some things about how to treat people, trying to be fair, take care of one another, uh, and just all the things that you try to teach your children. So I thought I could do this to the voice of a dog and that they would listen. And so it was fun dreaming up stories each time. I don't know where those stories came from. They just came out of my brain.
You're a natural, and I've told you that, and so many other people have told you that. You're a
Yes.
natural.
Well,
Dallas Tales can be purchased on Amazon. Those of you that are listening that have heard the story, you can still go and write a review on Amazon. That helps to bump her list to the top. And then just to have, I mean, this is such a fun family book. And just, I mean, I have 47-year-old me sitting here wondering, what is this dog going to do? And adhering to my secret of not going ahead. But it's how many chapters do I have before I find out? Let's see.
I think there's
Chapter
26.
26. Oh, we're more than halfway there.
Yeah.
Well, we're halfway 13. So we're almost there.
Yeah.
So we're kind of in the middle of the book. So
Hmm.
I am so happy. I know you had a book signing. Do you have any more coming up?
I don't have any plans yet. I'm waiting on some of those hardback books to come in, and they should be in really any day. They're scheduled to be in actually the 27th. So I don't know if they've gotten delayed. The hardbacks take almost a month to come in for some reason. The
Oh,
paperbacks come very quickly, and that's
Probably.
Amazon.com. And you can put in Dallas Tales, just like you see on the headline there. And you'll see that little red book pop up, or you can put in Gayle Jones, Gayle Jones, and you should see that little red book pop up again. Uh, but it's been so much fun. And the book signing was over at the Theodore Johns Library, and we had about 20 people last week. So that was a pretty good crowd for a rainy night.
Yes,
So
and tell about your last guest. I love this story.
my last what?
Your last guest, as you were leaving.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, one of those guests are on here right now. So I was getting my things out of the car, and I looked around, and then a truck was driving in the driveway, and I thought, well, that's somebody that I know. A lot of people that have Ford trucks, and I'm thinking that's somebody I know. And the window was down, and it was my son and his daughter that drove from Houston to see my book signing. And
So
Avery,
sweet.
isn't that sweet?
That is
Avery is the mom of Hank and Willow.
okay.
So she and her dad drove over, and it was such a great surprise.
I bet it was.
I was
Well,
I was so busy that day getting everything ready. I really hadn't thought about who would even come, and that was such a surprise to see them drive up. I have the most wonderful kids and grandkids in the world.
oh, sounds like it. But you're
I do.
wonderful by yourself, so that's not hard to
Oh,
believe. But I
well,
got to show you something. Tonight, I typed in Dallas Tales by Gayle Jones, right? Because my stream was pulled off. Sometimes it falls off the Facebook like that. And so I put it in for an image of the book. I got to share my screen. You may know about this, but let me show you. I always, oh, my screen got all big and funky, but I'll still share. Let me share my screen. Let me see if I can still see. Let's see. My screen like went so big. Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can get it fixed. Well, normally I could, let's see. I can't see the bottom of my screen because it did this weird thing. So I have to show it to you later because I cannot. Oh, here I go. Well, maybe I'll be able to. Let's see. Okay, maybe so. I don't think I'll be able to do it because I've managed. Oh, got it. Oh, here we go. Let me share my screen. So this little, I think this is it. So this little fellow came up.
oh yes, that's her.
So Big Chicken Blog, it's
Yep,
there.
yeah,
And
that's
so,
me. That's
so I
me.
was like, what is Dallas doing here? So I wanted you to see that. I was like, I wonder if she knows. I'll surprise her. But that's you. Did you draw him?
Actually, that is an app on my phone. I took that picture of Dallas, and there's an app called Waterlog, and it turns it into a watercolor.
Well, I found it.
Well, that is hysterical because I have that blog. That's where I put a lot of the stories as I was writing them initially. And my good friend said, "Well, I'm confused. Why do you call it the Big Chicken Blog?" And it's a and Dallas is a dog. And I said, "Well, the reason for that is I was always going to start some kind of a business, and I was too big of a chicken." So that's why I named it the Big Chicken Blog.
Got it. Well, I think it's the cutest. As if you could get it. If she couldn't get any cuter, I found that. I was
Well,
like,
and there's other, I mentioned to you, there's 26 chapters and stories about Dallas here. And if you go to that Big Chicken Blog, there's other stories I've written about Dallas on there.
oh,
And
okay.
it's thebigchickenblog.com. Dot wait, I don't know if it's .com or net. What does it say? You still got it up?
I see the Big Chicken Blog got files because where I went to find it, it
Let
was
me
just for that one picture because I was
you know
looking
what?
for an image. But
Let
I'm
me
putting
see.
it in now.
I haven't been in
It's
there
the
in a long time.
bigchickenblog.com.
Okay, I thought that's what it was, but be sure to put
Okay.
thebigchickenblog.com. And so if if you just want to read some of the other stories, there's a few stories about other things, but mostly it's stories I've written about Dallas.
And I just put the link there. I'm not going to go and read it because I don't want to spoil it. But you guys, please, all those clicks, every click to her page helps her. So we want to support a local author, and not only that, a great author. And so I'm so appreciative of you being here on Tucked In Tuesdays. Thank you for dealing with my nasally voice, and thank you for helping me read. I greatly appreciate it. So, do you have any words of wisdom or any takeaways for them this week?
Well, uh, I had something. Just hang on a second. Well, I again, when people make mistakes, they're greatly embarrassed, and so don't ridicule them too much. So just help them to see that we all make mistakes because um, we all mess up, and so we just need to help one another and love one another, and that's what makes a team. And when you're out camping like that team of dogs, they need each other.
And something you did tonight was a lifelong lesson. When I messed up on the word, you didn't laugh and you waited for me to sound it out right. And when I did it, you helped me, just like the dogs are doing in the book. They're not, well, sometimes they laugh at each other. And sometimes it's funny. I think we've laughed at each other off camera, but sometimes we kind of have to giggle at ourselves. So after I read last Tuesday, Dallas and we had a field day right there in your hallway. But she won't let me pick her up. But there was a little connection made with she and I out there. So thank you, Gail. We'll be back next Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Central, to
Yes.
read and to learn more about Dallas and see where the adventures take us. Guys, remember Tucked In Tuesdays, and I say this every week, every day. If you talk to him, nobody else tells you. Dr. George loves you. Have an amazing night, and Gail will be back next week, 7:30 Central. Hopefully, I won't sound like Snuffleupagus.
We'll say a prayer for you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good night.
Night night.